Well, Razorback fans, Arkansas might have like the best pitching I've ever seen from any Razorback team. It's early, but dude.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of the John Nabors Show, which you can catch every weekday afternoon from 4 to 6 on Natty State Sports and nattystatesports.com. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them out, all of them, today at nissanusa.com. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, and if you're a Razorback baseball fan, I know you for sure had a wonderful weekend, which we will talk a little baseball too here in just a little bit, or basketball here in just a little bit. But Arkansas was able to take care of business and sweep Murray State over the weekend. Now, I want to be very clear about this. I am not going to sit here and say that Murray State is an elite team or an elite matchup or one as good as what Arkansas faced down there in Arlington. I'm not going to say that. But if you listen to the Bombastic podcast, which is one of our great podcasts on the Natty State Sports Network, Andrew Ellis broke down the baseball side of things too, and he was discussing just how good a team like Murray State can be. And when I was kind of listening to it and hearing about it, it's like, okay, yeah, you look at the name on the jersey or whatnot, but they are a team that possibly will be in postseason play and actually has some pretty high-quality dudes. And Arkansas swept them. But it wasn't because of anything specific as far as Arkansas just putting it to them offensively or just a lot of home runs or a lot of back and forth or anything like that. It was strictly pitching and defense. So if you just look at this. Arkansas won game 1 on Friday, 5-1. They won game 2 on Saturday, 11-1. They won game 3 on Sunday, 5-3. 5 runs total scored by Murray State. 5 runs. And if you really want to dive into it, Friday, the only run that was scored was a solo shot. It was like the second pitch of the game against Hagen Smith. But after that, 12 strikeouts. 12 strikeouts on 81 pitches. Then after that, you had Cody Frank strike out 3, Gabe Gackle strike out 5, and that was all she wrote. Then you go to Saturday, Brady Tigert, your Saturday starter. 5 innings pitched. Gave up 3 hits and a run. It was a home run. 10 strikeouts. 10 strikeouts. On 19 batters faced. 76 pitches. Will McIntyre comes in, gets 2 strikeouts. Cooper Dawsey comes in, gets 2 strikeouts, and that's all she wrote. And then on Sunday, Mason Molina. 5 innings pitch. 2 hits, 1 run, another home run. I believe that was the home run. Either way, just 1 run. 10 strikeouts on 19 batters faced. Okay? Double-digit strikeouts for every one of the starters. So for those of you who are doing the math, this is the amount of strikeouts that the starters for Arkansas had this past weekend. 32. 12 from Hagen, 10 from Tigert, 10 from Molina. 32 strikeouts, okay, from your starting pitchers. And on top of that, if you want to know how many batters they walked, 1, 2, 3. 3. 32 strikeouts, 3 batters walked by your starting pitchers. That's unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. I saw the stat that the record for strikeouts in a season was like by Arizona State in 1972 or something like that at 740 strikeouts. Technically, as of right now, Arkansas is on pace to break that record. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to break the record. Like it's a record that's been held since 1972. It's not. You still got to face the SEC. So I'm not predicting that Arkansas is going to break that record. But it shows you just how dominant, not just the starters, mind you, because they've had some really great stuff from Will McIntyre. We've seen great things from, I know Gage Wood kind of struggled a little bit on Sunday, but he's shown it. Gabe Gackle, Cody Frank. You got so much depth there. But if you're able to go out there and each and every game count on your starter to get you at least 5 innings and get to double-digit strikeouts, the offense has got to start bringing it a lot more, and I want to see it. Like Sunday should be times where the offense really tees off, and it'll come together. I really firmly believe that. Like, I think the offense will be fine. But you're talking about a starting pitching staff that has, as of right now, the potential to be the best that Arkansas has ever had. Now, you could look at a bunch of different staffs, and a lot of you could probably bring up to me, like, you're an idiot that doesn't know baseball because this staff was better. Whatever. Okay, that's fine. But at least here in the modern era, I always thought that the Blaine Knight, Casey Murphy, Isaiah Campbell starters were about as good as it got, which they were phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But this type of staff, if you can get the consistency out of these guys like this, you're going to see Arkansas win a lot of games. A lot of games. And more importantly than just winning a lot of games is you're going to see a team that's going to have what it takes to go very far into postseason play. Because what has it always felt like? Minus 2018. What has it always felt like Arkansas has been missing in a lot of cases in these postseason games? Like, there was times that they had the hitting. There was times that they had 1 or 2 pitchers. Think about the Kevin Kopps year. They had one guy. But the depth and the talent and the starters especially, you're going to be hard-pressed to find better ones out there in college baseball than what Arkansas has. Praying that they stay healthy. Experienced bullpen guys, highly decorated freshmen. And as long as the hits start to come around and they start to warm up the bats and they start to get guys in scoring position and take care of business and get after that, again, I just don't see any reason why Arkansas does not become a national seed when it's all said and done, at least in the regular season. I don't see any reason why they don't win the SEC West for the second year in a row. And also, I don't see any reason why they don't win the SEC. Now, it's a tough conference. I get it. You guys are all screaming at me. And it was like, oh, there's a lot of season left. You're right. There is. But what do we got to base it on? What do we base it all on? Is what we've seen so far. And you can't tell me that what you've seen so far, not only in these games, but also those games in Arlington, talk about the offense and all that. That's fine. But you cannot tell me that this is not an elite and possibly the best pitching staff that Arkansas has had, at least in the Dave Van Horn era. You can't tell me that there aren't reasons to believe that. You can't tell me that it doesn't excite you a little bit. It's okay to be a little cautiously optimistic. That's fine. But you got to look at this and say, man, oh man, if anybody scores double digits on this Razorback team during SEC play and weekends, something happened. Somebody got hurt. Like, it's that level good. And it's only going to get better. But you got to stay healthy. That's first and foremost. You got to stay healthy. I think they will. But I've just been so impressed. And it's so much fun. Like, you always talk about the long ball. Chicks dig the long ball. And I love home runs. I love those piss missiles. I love seeing the bats get hot in high-scoring games. I do. But I feel like the more I've actually watched baseball, which I'm not a baseball guy, but the more I've watched it, seeing a dominating pitching performance from beginning to end and consistently, folks, that's hard to beat. That's hard to beat. Because there is something magical. There is something magical in sports. And it's not just baseball, in any sport, where you're able to go up against another team and they know what you're doing. They know what you're going to throw. They know how good you are. They know your pitches. They've been scouting you. They've been looking at you. They've been doing all of this stuff, and they respect you. They do all of that, and they still can do nothing about it. There is nothing more magical in sports than that. That's why Darren McFadden is one of the most fun and most highly decorated and highly regarded Razorbacks of all time. Everyone knew he was getting the ball. Everyone knew how good he was. Everyone knew that Arkansas didn't have a legit passing game. They knew it was him, and they still could do nothing about it. Same with Traylon Burks. Same with Matt Jones. Same with, like, you throwing a Mason Jones in basketball, like, whatever. Those are the most iconic and most fun times when you know that the other team knows what's about to happen, and there's nothing they can do about it. And as of right now, that's what's happening with Arkansas. They know what's coming. They know the type of pitches. They know how high quality that they could be, but it doesn't matter. You know why? Because Arkansas's pitching staff is the best right now. Just saying. Folks, are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Maybe you'd like to see what adventure you have around the next corner. Well, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. How about the 2024 Nissan Rogue? It is perfectly set for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is always updating Assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD screen infotainment system. And the 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. You can also check out the 2024 Nissan Armada, which will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Pictured a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 people in first-class luxury and style. Tow bigger and explore further with the 2024 Armada. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Arkansas did play a basketball game over the weekend, which most of you are probably over it and don't want to talk about, but I want to talk about it because I did watch it in its entirety. And it was Arkansas, Kentucky, CBS, 12:30. You know, this is a game that is still, I don't care what anybody says, it's still the best rivalry matchup in SEC, year in and year out. Doesn't mean that it's always going to be the most highly ranked by both teams, but when it comes to fan bases, when it comes to programs, when it comes to the history, Arkansas, Kentucky still means a whole lot. And if you don't believe me, check the television ratings, because each and every SEC season, it's one of, if not the most highly watched game ever. That's why CBS keeps having it on there. You know, that's not by accident. CBS doesn't just put on crap every year. There's a reason why Arkansas and Kentucky's always on SEC or on the CBS network each and every season. But I don't think anybody really expected to see what happened in this game. Arkansas did lose. They did lose in regulation. In a final score of 111-102. Let me repeat that. In regulation, the Arkansas Razorback basketball team lost to the Kentucky basketball team by a final score of 111-102 in regulation. Unbelievable. That's so much. Like, that is so many points. I don't even think people realize it. So, Caleb Battle's just on one. This has been the greatest offensive stretch I've seen a Razorback have in quite some time. 34 points for Caleb Battle, 8 of 16 from the field. Only hit 1 3, but was 17 of 18 from the free throw line. Got 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and 0 turnovers. Caleb Battle is that dude. He has been absolutely killing it. Tremont Mark, 10 of 20, 3 of 6 from 3. Had 23 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals. Did have 4 turnovers, so a little too much there. Jeremiah Davenport goes 4 of 6 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. Gets 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 turnovers, unfortunately, but had 1 assist. Even Devo played a lot more. He didn't do much offensively, but did have 3 steals, 2 assists, 4 rebounds for him. It's overall solid performance. You know, Brazil came back and played close to 15 minutes, had 8 points, 2 rebounds, 4 or 5 from the field. Didn't do too bad. But yeah, just scoring at will was this team. Crazy points totals. Makai Mitchell had 13 points, 4-6 shooting. We always ended the game for 16 minutes. Foul trouble was doing it, but only 2 rebounds. That was a little surprising. But just wildness, wild craziness. Arkansas hit 53% from the field, 41% from 3, and 96.4% from the free throw line. They went 27 of 28. I didn't mention Kentucky, but Kentucky had 7 dudes in double figures. Like, a defense was optional. Defense was 100% optional in this game. Kentucky shot 56% from the field, 45% from three-point land, 81% from the free throw line. Antonio Reeves, the Razorback killer, it seems like, 22 points for him, 19 points for DJ Wagner, 15 points for Aaron Bradshaw, 12 points for Ivisic, I think is the name, the big 7-foot Russian dude. Rob Dillingham had 15 points, 10 points for Reed Shepard. So again, just offense. Arkansas actually outscored Kentucky in the paint, 48-38. Like, second chance points were pretty even. Turnovers, Arkansas had 18. Or points off turnovers, Arkansas had 18 points off turnovers. Kentucky had 13. Overall turnovers, Kentucky had 15. Arkansas had 12. So it really comes down to, he's like, all right, so where was the stretch, or where was it at that Kentucky beat Arkansas in? Well, they did shoot better from the field. Arkansas shot much better from the free throw line, but better from the field. Kind of the difference. Kentucky had 6 more free throws made. They shot 14 more free throws. But that's what it came down to. Offense was all what it was. I mean, that's all it was. So I was highly entertained by the game. And it's just it's such a weird thing to see this team. And I know I'm probably just spitting the same stuff that I always do, but it's just so weird to see this team. One game, it's one way. One game, it's the other. One game, I want to choke them out and just punch myself in the face. And then the next game, I'm giving them attaboys and being proud of them. Like, it is just the weirdest season I've ever seen. Like, this is the same team that gave Kentucky every single thing that they wanted on the road. The same team lost to Vanderbilt 72 hours prior at home. You know? Like, it's the same team that went on the road against Texas A&M and won. Should have won against Mississippi State on the road. But it's also the same team that got embarrassed on their floor by 20 points to teams like Tennessee and South Carolina and Auburn and all of that. Like, it's just, what? None of it makes sense. I don't think it ever will make sense. But at least they did something to keep me interested. Got 2 games left, regular season games at least. LSU at home on Wednesday, and then you got Alabama on the road on Saturday, which, shoe buddy. That game's always weird too. It's like, I always feel like Arkansas is going to get smoked, but then they always play really close at Alabama. So maybe that happens. Well, all but that one time, I guess. All the other times they did. But either way. It's almost done, folks. It's almost done. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 winning bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I wanted to pay tribute to somebody who knew all about Arkansas and may not have known it. Like, you may not have known this. But Chris Mortensen. And, I mean, he is and has been one of the greatest guys when it comes to NFL coverage and reporting. Name guy who's been at ESPN forever. It was announced on Sunday that he passed away at the age of 72. And the statement officially was put out by ESPN saying Mort was widely respected as an industry pioneer and universally beloved as a supportive, hardworking teammate. He covered the NFL with extraordinary skill and passion and was at the top of his field for decades. He will truly be missed by colleagues and fans, and our hearts and thoughts are with his loved ones. I hated to see this. I mean, people pass away and people have different reactions and different feelings on it, but I want to kind of throw this out there, though, in case you didn't know. Chris Mortensen lived in Arkansas. We had a home in Arkansas. His son, Alex Mortensen, was a walk-on quarterback who played for Arkansas during the late Houston Nutt era. And because of that fact, Chris Mortensen found himself in Arkansas a lot and loved it so much that he ended up having a place here. I believe it's in Bella Vista, if I'm not mistaken. But there were times where he would be reporting on ESPN, and they would go to it was like a Zoom conference call before Zoom was a thing, but it was basically like remotely from his home when he'd have reports, and he'd have a Razorback helmet in the back. He's using live from his home in Arkansas. And it was a really sad thing to see just because of the connection and how he kind of fell in love with Arkansas. And Kendall Rogers of D1Baseball.com, he put out this tweet because I had heard about this, but it was nice to see Kendall kind of confirm it. But he said, when Kendall saw the news on Twitter, he says, "Man, this sucks. I traded a lot of messages with Mort over the years. The dude was a sneaky big college baseball fan, and most of all, he was a massive Razorback baseball fan." And I just think that that's so cool. It would have been sad to see him pass away regardless. But to know that he had such a strong connection to Arkansas and such a strong connection to the Razorbacks and enjoyed the Razorback baseball team and lived in Arkansas, I'll admit I got to meet him a few times. And ironically enough, the first time I ever met and talked with him was when I was a part-time employee at Best Buy in Fayetteville. I worked there when I was in high school and early part of my college years. And I remember he came in with his son, and I was working in the home theater section, and I think he was buying his son or one of those fancy LCD TVs. And I helped him out, and I got to talk to him a little bit. And of course, I was a little bit starstruck because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Chris Mortensen. I see him on ESPN all the time. But I think I was like 18 at the oldest. But he was so nice. Like, he was so cool. And, we talked football a little bit because I was trying to make small talk and while the sale was going on and everything. And he was so cool. So nice. And, it was just, I wasn't the only one that had that experience with him. Like, everybody talked about how kind he was. So just really sad to see. And, thoughts and prayers for the family and everybody involved. But just in case you didn't know, Chris Mortensen, strong ties to Arkansas and a huge Razorback baseball fan. He definitely will be missed. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching in to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.